It's Steve.
Okay, Steve, how you doing?
Good. I have it set up to record, so do you want to do that now or no?
Okay. I don't know how I can, really, all right, go ahead. We'll see how it goes and see if it's any good, okay?
All right. All right, you know about the Noaki story. It's Wednesday, May 9th, 2012. And Noaki, when did he go to jail? Or, I mean, when was he sentenced?
Well, he actually went to jail about 3 or 4 days ago as a result of another case that he was involved in family court, not coming up with $152,000 for GAL because he was claiming in court that Veronica Reich, the GAL,
Guardian ad litem. Yep.
Put a lien against his properties, and that he would gladly give the money if she would take the lien off, but the judge didn't have any of that, and had him put in jail for contempt. Then he was, yesterday, or was it 2 days ago, basically was hauled from the jail to the Norwalk courthouse, Norwalk, Connecticut, and he had a sentencing hearing, which actually I didn't know about. I just stumbled upon, having walked into the courthouse for some other purpose, and finding out that he was there. And I was directed to courtroom B, where he was, and there was the sentencing. And what happened was that after about an hour and a half of various pleadings, that the judge should have leniency for Michael Noaki by his fiancée, by his lawyer, by the fact that the supposed victims did not want him to have jail time. They just wanted him to seek medical attention. And also that the recommendations of the prosecutor were, I think they were 90 days with 1 day, after 1 day he could have probation, have a probational circumstance. And yet the judge threw a 5-year sentence upon Michael Noaki for inadvertently sending an email to his ex-wife. Now, the contents of that email, the public should know, had nothing to do with his ex-wife. It had to do with issues of Connecticut law reform. So there was a protective order that he was not to contact his ex-wife. He claims that it was an inadvertent press of a button. He had meant to email somebody else. That there was just all a mistake. And when the hearings, when the case started about this violation of the protective order, Mr. Noaki is a fierce defender of his rights, and it was clear watching the process, the due process in the courtroom, that his rights were violated time and time again, and his due process rights, and also civil rights. So he was fighting fiercely for them. Now, when it came the judge's turn to give his findings and reason why he was giving 5 years, the judge was going on and on about Mr. Noaki would not back down. Mr. Noaki continued with his behavior of being very strong in the court, not being quiet when the judge told him to be quiet. You know how judges are. They want to control the courtroom. And when Mr. Noaki saw his rights being violated, he just kept on going. And, Mr. Noaki tells it like it is and speaks his mind even to a judge. And he said to the judge, even at one point, that the judge was the wizard of corrupticate, which got widely reported in the papers. And so judges don't like that. And to me, it was clear that it was a vengeful thing. It was also to give him 5 years, and also that he wanted. The judge said that that Mr. Noaki had no remorse and would not change. Show me a sign that you would have changed, that you would have tempered down, that you would have basically, in my own words, stopped defending your civil rights and ignore the fact that I'm breaking all these laws as a judge and to come to my control. And so he was basically brought down by the court system. Now, I also think there's a conspiracy involved with a number of judges, members of the legislature, who just want to shut Mike Noaki up. Now, in my opinion, because I've seen Michael operate in the courtroom, no, I would not do things that he does. He is a fierce patriot, a defender of rights, and clearly the courts have reached a level of corruption that's intolerable, and that acts of civil disobedience are very necessary in order to get the public aware of what's exactly going on. So I'll stop there, and you can ask me some questions.
All right. What Michael Noaki did, I mean, let's say he was completely guilty of sending an email to his wife, with a protective order on. If the public's going to pay, I mean, we're talking, even 10 years ago, it was $76 a day. It costs taxpayers to keep somebody in jail.
Mm-hmm. I hear it's now about $100,000 a year per inmate.
Yeah, so if you're paying that kind of money to keep somebody that is a danger to society, somebody that sent an email, let's say it was purposely to his ex-wife, the rapist raping a child, a 3-year-old, some of those cases they aren't put in jail. They're not listed as a sex offender. This is Chris Kennedy brought this up, in front of the Judiciary Committee in Connecticut. The individual was not punished for raping a child, but if you complain about the court system in Connecticut, look what happens.
Absolutely. I've seen manslaughter cases where the sentences were 4 or 5 years. Manslaughter cases. So clearly, from my observance of this Judge Udock at the Norwalk Court System.
Udock, and he had lodged complaints about Udock. Can you spell it?
Oh, sure. He had lodged several complaints. And basically, there's just a matter of record because the grievance committee is fixed and operates not to serve the people, but operates to protect the judges. Only the very, very worst cases are ever brought forward.
Well, I mean, if you lodge a complaint against a judge, and the judge sentences you to 5 years, it's blatant Retaliation. That judge should have recused himself. Period. Can you spell that judge's name?
Udon? I don't like to spell it, because I'm not sure. I think it's Hudock, but not sure. He's known down in the North courts for being the absolute very harshest of the judges, along with this Judge Maloney, and people have been complaining about these judges for years, and nothing ever gets done. I don't think there's ever been a history in the history of the Connecticut legislature that there's ever been a judge impeached through the process at the legislature. So basically, what we have at the legislature are, especially the Judiciary Committee, it's lawyer controlled, and judges are protected time and time again. And Steve, you know as well as I, because you've gone to some of those committee hearings, we videotaped some of those committee hearings, that you can't get, no matter how much the citizens speak out, it's largely ignored by the members of the Judiciary Committee.
Well, the thing with it is, you can bring up laws that are broken, federal laws. You can bring up how citizens, their constitutional rights are just trampled upon, and there's no questions. That legislators that are lawyers, they're not asking any questions. They want the hearing over. It's televised on.
Slam dunk their agenda.
Yeah.
Which is often what they do. And I've witnessed this firsthand concerning the legislative committees discussing changes in the practice book rules, which is an issue I've taken up, where from the beginning of the Enabling Rules Act several decades ago, the legislature passed the power of rulemaking, practice book rulemaking for all states back to the judges, and the argument was that the judiciary should be independent. It should make its own rules. But what we have exposed is that these judges in their rule-making capacity have created totally unconstitutional rules that infringe more and more every day upon the very foundation of our constitutional rights, which is our person, our properties, and our papers. And one rule we caught them trying to create, and it was to be able to, in divorce court, this is just one example of many, many rules that aim to infringe. This rule was rating, allowing judges to rate college trust funds for kids. Money that was accumulated after a lifetime, so people could put their kids through college. These trust funds were rated in order to pay the lawyers.
Yeah, to pay for the lawyers.
Because they had already sapped every dollar out of the marital estate, and the only thing left were these trust funds. And so basically, what we have here is that in a few months, a lawyer can get the entire fortune of a family through lawyer fees. From a lifetime of accumulation, a lawyer can, in a few months, can get his hands on with these outrageous fees. And then, of course, if you fight it, more and more time goes into the...
and they really don't do any work. I mean, they have legal... their staff, which they underpay, does all the work, and they're just pompous asses that are, sitting down just raking in cash.
Yeah, and the judges allow that, and the courts benefit by you having to take more and more actions out, have more and more motions that require fees. But let's get back to that one issue about the rating of the trust funds. We're talking about protected assets. We're talking about assets that a judge is not allowed to pierce the veil on and give access. In this case, to the lawyers. Sometimes it's for the opposing spouse. The spouse would request it. Now that happened in my divorce case, where they pierced the veil of a limited liability corporation, for which I had no control. And by having no control, my interest is not really in the ongoings of the company and the underlying assets, but my interest was merely an interest in equity, and that was the shares. And not beyond that, the bylaws rule. The judge must honor the bylaws. So I had them when they rated my family LLC dealing with my inheritance that only could go to blood relatives and not my wife. I showed them the law. I showed them in Connecticut, if you want to use Connecticut law, that the interest of a shareholder in a limited liability company is the company owns the assets and not the shareholders. And the same law is down in the state of Florida. So and that's where the company was incorporated. Again, it's well known the bylaws of the corporation rule. Yet the judges completely rate them. They don't care. They just do what they want. And it took me 8 years of fighting, and I still lost. And I lost even more because I had to pay the other side's lawyer fees. Believe it or not, I persisted in a pro se manner because the fees, if I had retained the lawyer, the fees would have eaten up everything. It was like Charles Dickens' Bleak House. By the time you get to the end of the case and that the victim or the rightful, that justice is seen, there's nothing left. The assets have been completely eaten up by the lawyers in the courts. And so I know many horror stories are happening in the state of Connecticut. This is unbelievable what goes on down here. And, I'd have to, all of these issues are very complicated, so it's very, unless I'm dealing with knowing a case through a recent discussion, it's hard to talk about on the fly, like when you're calling in and I have to talk about it. But I can tell you that I know of one woman who placed an order of contempt against her husband for not paying child support, and she's completely destitute. And the judge was favoring the husband, even though the ex-husband was totally guilty of not paying child support, not following the orders of the court. Now, here's an example of the orders of the court were not followed, and the judge moved to protect the individual. And what in this particular case, the most recent thing was that the judge reduced, instead of enforcing contempt, reduced the obligated money that the husband had to pay by like 80%, 90%. And then said that he only had to pay $5 a week until it's paid.
It's rigged.
$5 a week until it's paid. And the calculations come out that it would take a lifetime for him to pay the remaining amount. So the judge in this case moved to protect the obvious guilty one.
And that's in Connecticut.
But in Noaki's case was something very, very small, very insignificant, where he has no previous criminal record, has enormous standing in the community, has given the charities, is a model citizen otherwise. It gives 5 years.
It's completely rigged, and if you stand up, they will go after you. And what they do in Connecticut is they're trying to collect revenue. They'll break up intact families. They'll go after small business owners.
I think it's more evil than that. You know, and I think it's to justify their own purpose in funding. In the case of like the DCF, if you want to talk about the DCF, Department of Children and Families.
Yes.
And but go ahead. What were you saying?
No, what I'm saying is they have roll call for police. If somebody is outspoken, if you say you propose civilian oversight of police, or reform of the courts, or lawyers getting less money, your name is given to the Commissioner of State Police. So from the very top, because you exercise free speech, because you went to elected officials redressing grievances and trying to propose laws.
Retaliation.
Yes, you can end up being arrested, lose your property, lose your standing in community.
You know, Steve, because it happened to you.
Yes, I do.
And you're a good example of that occurring. And your story is the same story as a fellow I know down in Florida, Bob Bertrand, who basically was in the same position as you, where you were wanting the drug dealers and the prostitutes away from your real estate properties, and you were trying to bring dignity back into the community. But little did you know that the prostitutes and the drug dealers were in cahoots with the local police. There were payoffs. There's all sorts of corruption going on.
It's the police actually told me, you're interfering with the revenue collection system, and it was basically my fault that I didn't pay attention to what they were actually saying. Is this is what we do. This is the way we do it, and if you get in our way, this is what we'll do to you. So they spelled it out, A, B, C, to me. And had I not bought properties, basically if I had been organized crime and, as sleazy as they are and had a grandfather buried in the...
I would call that sleazy. I think that's a good word, how I feel about much of the judiciary. Mind you, that not all judges, not all police are bad. But the point is they don't remove the rotten apples. So go ahead.
They reward them with higher positions. You don't have to show up, you get paid.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go after people that are investing in the community, that are raising families, doing everything they're supposed to do, you're punishing good behavior, and you're rewarding bad behavior. If you're a parasite, if you have a mental illness and you're helping the police sell the drugs, prostitution, setting people up, collect, where they can collect revenue, where there's fines being levied, where lawyers make their money. These people that aren't producing for the economy are being rewarded for their bad behavior, and it's just plain wrong. And Connecticut's...
The corruption has always been there, but I have to say that the corruption has never been worse. And because of the success rate of corruption, that corruption gets worse and worse and worse. But what's going to happen? This is what's taken our country down. It was the corruption in the corporations, and the derivatives, derivative schemes, and the banking, and corruption that continues to happen in the bank, that has brought our economy down, and made people more destitute, and created more problems, and actually created more divorces, because money is often a source of lack of money is always often a source of divorce.
The largest mansions in the U.S. We're building mansions for the biggest criminals in the world. and basically they want us to die. They want us in prison. They want to take whatever they can from us and build bigger houses for themselves. And it's obvious.
Yeah. But I think we're going to reach a crisis point. And these corrupt forces have brought it on upon themselves that there's going to be a huge amount of destitution. And people will rise up and take back their government, as is their right, according to the Declaration of Independence and the implications in the Constitution of the United States. And the Declaration of Independence says by whatever means necessary. And when you get to the point where the government has become an absolute police state tyranny, that I have great hopes that Americans will rise and take back their country.
Yeah.
And a lot of the source of our woes is the corrupt corporate world and the influence upon the politics of the United States, and never made worse than that Supreme Court ruling, United versus help me out. What's the name of that case? Where a corporation becomes more of a person than an actual citizen.
I know what you're talking about, but it's at the tip of my tongue. But I don't know. It's a shame that both of us can't recite it. Just for knowing it.
Okay, so back to Noaki. He's a hero. Maybe not all agree with his methods. He's a hard hitter. I do believe that he eventually will prevail in the federal courts. It's taking him a while to get the federal action going. I believe he will eventually sue some pretty high officials and the DCF and a number of including and the judiciary itself. We do have a conspiracy here. This is not just one lawyer acting here. One judge or lawyer acting here, or one judge or lawyer acting there. But it's a concerted effort to crush any dissent by the people in power, and rightfully, and it's rightful for the heroes like Michael Noaki to do this, because of what's going on is pure corruption. And I don't know where to start. There's corruption in every facet of the government.
Well,
that I see.
He was starting to make headway, and they did not want him to be allowed to win.
No, the word is out. It's a conspiracy. The word is out. Bring Michael Noaki down. They tried. He's such a hero that one thing that the courts are doing is they have their court ordained medical examiner, who is buddies with the judge and buddies with the system, and they try to label you as crazy, and so what Michael Noaki did was say, your court, the court medical examiner, his analysis can be contested by very professional people in the psychiatric world outside of the court system. And when Michael Noaki tried to bring in his own medical examiners, the court refused that as evidence. They're fixing the gig. They're fixing it. And when Michael Noaki refused to accept the medical attention as ordained through the court processes, with the court-appointed medical examiner, he went to jail under contempt for 30 days. And just as he's getting out, they were trying to set him up, put him in a paddy wagon and a straitjacket and send him away. And at the last minute, something happened, and we don't know what happened. I think a phone call was made, whatever, because he had contacted the Department of Justice. Maybe it was through there. I don't know who was responsible for saving him, but they dropped the steam at the last second, and he got out. And I did a documentary on Mike, which you can find on YouTube, and you can hear that story toward the end of that documentary. The documentary is called "Don't Take Any Wooden Nutmegs," and basically what that means is that in the days and centuries ago, unscrupulous Yankees would take a walnut and carve it to look like nutmeg, and they would pass it off as a real thing, a total fraud. And that's what I'm saying today. The courts are doing with laws. They're trying to pass something for what it really isn't. They say it's for one purpose, for a good purpose, but it's really for a very evil purpose. And that's where you've got the expression, "Don't take any wooden nickels." It came from that, "Don't take any wooden nutmegs." So that's what the Connecticut judiciary and the legislature is doing. They're passing off evil laws as something good.
Well, Michael Noaki, he and I were at odds because he didn't feel that he deserved any time at all, and it was my opinion, just paying attention to what's going on, that he was going to get 5 years in prison.
Right. Michael has a lot of, I also countered Mike, saying that, the things that he needs to learn about just how evil these people are, and I was trying to point him in the right direction on some of the things he was doing to make it better and to make his case more viable. And he just has his own way and his own methods. And so we can't stop Michael for being who he is. But the work he's done is to be largely commended.
I had concern.
And the efforts and the fact that he put himself out on the line and at great risk challenged the officials at the highest levels to create reform, justice.
I had concerns for my own safety. I was thinking of going down, and I would have had I not gotten work. But to go down and help him out, the powers in Connecticut, they will stop at nothing. It seems they just will create any situation, spend any taxpayer money to get what they want, and do people in, like Michael Noaki. They would do you in, they do me in, anybody that gets in their way. And there's too few people that are standing up to them.
For every move that they make against activists in an illegal way, through due process violations, through violations of civil rights, every time they move to do that, it becomes a matter of record, and eventually it's going to build up, and it's going to come back upon them. And that's what we're hoping. They can't keep up the jig forever. It's all going to get exposed. And, in terms of divorce courts, there's very little good that courts do.
Well,
the courts ruin families, ruin children, take children away from their families. By the way, are you up and running about the Joe Watley case? There's a hearing coming up on the 14th that I'm going to go videotape, where the court just lies and takes a child away from his father and mother, saying that the mother is ADA and therefore she's not able to care for the child. But what about the father? The father had no ADA problems. He was not,
So if you have,
incapacitated in any way.
if you're American,
Yet they still took the kid away from the father.
if you're an
And
American,
now the years have gone by, and the kid's grown up in some alien family, not knowing the father. Now this is sacrilegious. What the courts have done is way beyond, way beyond.
well, and people make money if you take away kids. The lawyers make money because you have a lawyer appointed. Taxpayers pay for that.
Mm-hmm.
If you
They take all the money.
yeah,
They take all the money. Well, on the average, 70% of wealth is lost during divorce. And guess who it goes to?
lawyers.
It goes to the lawyers. 70%. So a lifetime of building up wealth by a couple. 70% gets lost in a few years to lawyers for doing practically nothing. You know, they have a few days in court. They do a little bit of research. As you said, they pay underlings to do most of the research.
Well, I would say that the economy is crashing, not because of the corporation and banks. I mean, they're doing their share for wrecking the world, but
Well, they wreck the world with a derivative scheme.
but it's the court system and policing in the United States. It's disgusting. They should be embarrassed. They have to get dirty.
Embarrassed? Who the hell cares?
Well, they have to get wet, as so to speak. What's that? Yeah.
But go ahead.
No, in order to be in the court system, to be a lawyer, to be a police officer, you have to do something so despicable that the others have something on you, so you're one of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, let's take a look at your case there and how you were set up with the charging instructions, which is, by the way, another problem in the Noaki case. The charging instructions were completely they were missing an important.
Well, I mean, they tell
that would have gotten Noaki off the hook.
Well, they tell a jury.
But let me finish. In your case, I'm going to stop me if you don't want to talk about this because you feel you might be in danger. But in your case, the lawyer that you had did something wrong.
Yes.
He raped a 14-year-old.
He didn't rape a 14-year-old. He had an inappropriate relationship with an underage client.
They call that rape. That's rape, even though she's consenting. She's underage. It's rape. All right. So at any rate, underage. This is a crime.
He brought the.
You were told. You don't have to answer, but you were told that by this lawyer that he had to fix your case because he owed the judge a favor because the judge got him off the hook on those charges.
That's correct.
Covered it up. Now that is so.
So I went to jail because
despicable.
Well, yeah, I mean he owed the judge a favor, so I went to jail.
Yeah.
And I didn't do anything wrong.
Moral, ethical, and legal law. Legal pretense was violated. There's no honorability in the system when it gets that bad. None.
Here I am defending Michael H. Agronoff.
You're defending him? Oh, don't even try.
No, I'm what he may not have had a sexual encounter with an underage client. He brought her to his house. He may have been trying to wine her and dine her. Maybe he was trying to have sex with her and failed. But he was doing a lot of.
How do you know?
I don't know. He could have had. He is that much of a liar and that sleazy, but as far as did he admit that to me? No, he admit that he had an improper relationship with an underage client.
Oh, okay.
And he was going to get
when I hear that and I hear improper, I think sex.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I make that jump.
If you break the rules, I mean, if you bring a client to your home. And he said, "Well, I recently lost my wife and this and that. So maybe he did have sex with her. I don't know. He did not admit that."
Okay, well, radio listeners, I apologize. I stand to be corrected. He had an inappropriate relationship with a client. I naturally assumed.
And he owed the judge a favor, so so
he never really said that to you.
Charging over $17,000 to defend me for resisting being mugged on my property, where I get jail.
It's just to set you up.
No, I had a second prosecutor.
Set you up in the end because you owed the judge a favor. That's breaking every rule.
He was a second prosecutor, not my lawyer, for over $17,000. Yeah.
So, I think we've said enough about this for now, but I think that we can keep the audience tuned to the ongoing saga of Michael Noaki. I do believe that, he did obviously take an appeal on. He didn't just take an appeal on his sentencing, but a few days before he had a motion in a hearing on claiming that there was a mistrial based on the fact that the judge screwed up the charging orders, because it's law that if you inadvertently do something, that it can be interpreted as inadvertent, that you can't be charged with what he was charged with, which was breaking a protective order by sending an email. And also how that protective order came to be is completely bogus. But you can't fight the courts. They have an order. They have an order that they made an order and it got violated. But the sentencing was way too harsh. I believe they're going to be appealing on the fact that A, the sentencing was too harsh concerning the sentencing hearing, and B, about the mistrial. And he's definitely well within his period to make an appeal. And once he's got that in, he'll get what is called an appellate bond, and he'll get out. So I don't think anything's going to stop that. He will get out. I just hope that what happens at the appellate court is fair and just.
Well, had he not had
moved to protect the judge, that they'll see what the errors of the judge and do the right thing and be just. But I've seen the appellate court operate, and I don't have much faith in them, because I brought forth, as I say in my case, I brought forth the argument and argued for 8 years in my case that the state illegally attacked the limited liability company that my family was involved, and I showed them the statutes and I showed them the laws, and all the appellate after a long hearing, all the appellate court finding was that we find nothing wrong. We find nothing wrong. No real finding, no reason why there was nothing wrong, because I had them. Because the Connecticut did break the laws. The Connecticut did take an unconstitutional taking. And it cost me close to $1 million.
Well,
and they did this, and they largely ruined my life. And the lawyer got $150,000 from my wife, because I lost, and my wife got about $600,000, and then other fees that amounted to approaching $1 million. So, and then I too was put in jail until I would cough up the money. Fortunately, it was only for a few hours. I was able to wire the money, and then I got out. But this idea of throwing you into jail for contempt until you satisfy the order, this is nothing more than the return of debtors' prisons.
Yeah.
Debtors' prisons. And debtors' prisons were made illegal, and America has brought them back. And America is making them more and more prevalent under another name, but it doesn't fool us. They are debtors' prisons. So there's a lot of reform that needs to be conducted, and a lot of change that needs to be made. And one thing that needs to be done is that we need to remove lawyers from the legislature, because the lawyers have an oath to themselves. And before, they would have an oath to you. And it's not right that the different branches of government would be in the same hands as by an entity as these lawyers. Somehow the lawyers have become the fourth branch of government. It should be the fourth branch of government. Should be the American people. But it's really become the lawyers
or the media.
Here's my hopes: the economic situation is going to get worse, and there will be a day where people will descend upon Washington in the tens of millions, and people will occupy the court steps of every courtroom in the country, and the people will take their country back. And I think that day is coming soon because of the Occupy movement. And though the press is making it so it's not so significant anymore, the Occupy movement is still very, very strong. So,
well, if
then on that, I think we've given the audience enough, and we can talk, do another one later.
All right, but we're going to organize crime to complain about organized criminals, and look what happens.
There's no question about it. And it's going to take a real push and unity by the American people, by the 99%, to take their country back, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So, we're all the sovereign citizens of this country, and we have to start behaving as if we are. And if we do nothing, then we deserve what we get, which is a takeover in a police state, and your privacy violated in every way. So,
well, silence.
I'm sure your listeners are well versed on how our privacies are taken away by the thing. By the way, the latest thing is they're going to put cameras and microphones to every TV set, and then somebody somewhere can switch a button and listen to everything that's going on in your home, watch you, and they don't even have a way to switch it off at the set. Samsung's coming out with it. Don't believe me? Look it up. And things like this that incrementally are happening step by step, where we're just going to become live among big. We're going to be living in a country of Big Brother. And,
the seal's already been broken on that. I mean, cell phones, GPS. I mean, and go on and on. That's off subject for what we're talking about, but I don't know. I'm going to close out the interview, and silence does signify acceptance.
Yes, and both of us urge that the American country wake up and stand up for our rights, or we're going to lose them. We were warned by our forefathers, and the day's going to come where we're going to have to stand up and stop the tyranny, and especially what's happening in the courts, because that affects everyone. If people look at somebody else's court case and say, "I feel sorry for that guy, but I can't do anything about it," if everybody says that all the time, then one day they are going to be the victims of the courts. And so it's time to take our courts back. It's time to take the lawyers out of legislature. And by the way, one of my big interests right now is the missing 13th Amendment, which did not allow that. People want to look that up on the internet. I think they'll find a topic of great interest. So the development in the missing 13th Amendment is that we did find evidence that 13 states did ratify that amendment, and it should be law, and it went missing, and that would take the lawyers out of legislature. Okay, on that note, I wish you the best, Steve, and we'll talk more later.
Sounds good. We'll talk soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.